everyone. In my last video you saw how I installed the doors on the front of this cabinet in my bus. I have one more job to do to finish off this cabinet, and that is to put the bench top on. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. And this here is what I'm going to be using for my bench top. So it's an acacia hardwood panel from Bunnings. I've seen a lot of people use these for the countertops in their bus kitchen, so hopefully it'll be alright. I actually bought two of these because I was originally going to use one for the table, but it's a bit too heavy for that, and I ended up going with the pine panel instead for the table, which is good because now it means I've got an extra panel, so I have plenty left over for making splashbacks and things, and I'll probably end up using a little bit of this in the bathroom as well. So I've already cut my bench top piece kind of to the right size. The other day I actually clad this wall. There's a bit of a sneak peek at what my bus is going to look like when it's all finished. But yeah, so I did the cladding on this wall because I want to be able to put my bench top right up against that. That's kind of where the bench top is going to sit. But before I screw it down, I've got a little bit of work to do on it yet. So I need to put a splashback on the back of it, and I'm going to be installing that with pocket holes, which I want to do from behind so you don't see them at the front. So I'm actually going to be installing the splashback onto the bench top before I install the bench top onto the cabinet. And I'm actually going to be making my splashback out of the same timber panel. This is just another piece that I've cut from the panel. So it'll go on the back kind of like that once it's cut to shape. Now, I'll just show, I mean, that looks great from the front, but the problem that I have with this, once again, one of the challenges with building in a bus that isn't square, is if I come around this side, you can see that the top half of the wall kind of angles in towards the center of the bus. And so when I screw this to the bench, it needs to be at 90 degrees. It needs to come away from the wall a little bit, because if I push it right up against the wall, it's going to tend to want to tilt it inside like that, which I don't want. So in order to have this at 90 degrees, I'll come back here, you can see it actually needs to be in a little bit from the edge of the bench, which doesn't look great. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a little return on this backsplash, because you can see here I've cut a piece that's kind of a little bit on an angle, and yeah, it'll just help to hide the fact that there's that bit of an overlap there, and should help it look a little bit better. Okay, so I've got my splashback as close as I can get it to the wall here and still be square to the bench top. So you can see there's a little bit of a overhang there, which is what I'm going to try and cover up. But that's where the backsplash needs to sit in order to be square to the bench. So I'm just going to go now, and on the back here I'm just going to go mark with a pencil the line where the back edge of that comes to, because then I'll know when I take it out the bus and I come to screw it in, I'll know where I have to sit it. Okay, so I've got these pieces just sitting here where they need to be. So now what I have to do is put some pocket holes along the back here in this piece so I can screw it down into the bench top from the back. And then I'm also going to put some at the end so that I can screw this way into this side piece here. Now, it's a little bit tricky because I don't want to put any pocket holes on this side of this piece, because they're going to be visible from the end and it'll look a bit crappy. And I don't really want to put them on this side either, but even if I could put them on this side, it's not ideal to have the pocket hole screw going down this way, because it's going to be quite close to the edge of this bench top when it comes into it. which is not the ideal way to put a pocket hole screw. It really should come from this side, so that's going sort of more into the meat of this board. But I don't want to do that, so I'm thinking what I might be able to do is, once this is all in place and this side piece is screwed to the back, I may be able to come from underneath the bench top and just put a little screw up into it from this way. I don't want to split anything, that's the challenge, but I think that'll be a little bit easier to do from underneath. So what I'll do is I'll just get this piece secured first, and I'll get this piece screwed into that, and then I'll worry about how I'm going to secure this end of it. Alright, so as you can see, I've put a ridiculous number of pocket holes in here, but you know, I don't want this thing to move at all. And what I tried to do here was just kind of evenly space them out, but make sure I wasn't screwing through where these finger joints are, where the different pieces of the bench top are joined, just because I don't want to weaken those joints at all. So I just tried to kind of space them out in between those, and hopefully that will do the trick. We should have done this before putting the first coat of oil on this the other day, because the glue's not really sticking very well to the surface. I don't really want to sand it back because it'll scratch it up and that, but anyway, hopefully the screws will be enough to hold it in. Now I need to install it onto the cabinet. Alright, so I'm just trying to think ahead a little bit as to how I'm going to do this, because it's actually going to be tricky to screw this bench top on, because as you can see, I've got this shelf here that the stove sits on inside the cabinet, and it's fixed. I can't actually take that out. So, you know, normally when you're screwing up from underneath the cabinet into the bench top, you wouldn't have any of this stuff in the way. So it's going to be a little bit awkward. These ones at the front probably won't be so bad because they're sitting forward of that shelf. But when I come to do these ones in here, I'm going to have to probably use my right angle drill bit to get up in there. And it is going to be awkward. So I'm just thinking it might be a good idea if I actually pre-drilled the pilot holes for the screws into these pieces of timber first, while I've got full view of them, and I can, you know, drill the pilot hole nice and straight, and then hopefully then when I come to screw the screw in, it'll be a little bit easier to keep it straight because of the pilot hole that'll already be in there. And yeah, it just might help to guide the screw in the right way. Otherwise I think it's going to be really awkward to do. So I think I'll do that. I think I'll pre-drill the holes here, because then I can also see where my pocket hole screws are, so I know where to avoid them. Yeah, I'll do that first, I think. Next thing I'm going to do is just mark where the pilot holes are, so that when the bench top's on top of this and I'm looking at it from underneath, that I can actually see, you know, roughly where they are, so I'll be able to insert my screw into them from underneath. Especially these ones at the back, because they're going to be really hard to see. So I'm just going to put a little mark here, so I know that that's roughly where the hole is. And hopefully when I'm putting my screw in there, I'll be able to feel it go in. And I don't need to worry about these ones at the front because they're really easy to see. So I don't know if that'll make a difference. Hopefully it'll help a little bit. Okay, this is the scary part because I don't want to mess this up. The only place I can really clamp the bench top onto the cabinet is at the front here. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and do that and then secure the front screws first because they're also the easiest to get to from underneath. And I absolutely want this bench top to line up with the edge of the wall here. So if I can get this front edge secured in position, then I can go around and do the rest of the screws. I'm just using some scrap pieces of thin ply here just to protect the top of the bench top underneath the clamps because I'm going to be clamping these down pretty tight and I don't want to risk the clamp putting a little indent into the top of my bench. So using the ply in between just helps to protect the bench top. Okay, well the first screw's in. The thickness that I'm going through here, I'm screwing it through, the pieces underneath that I'm screwing it through are 19 millimeters thick, and this bench top is 26 millimeters thick. So overall, I've got a thickness of 45 millimeters. So I'm using 40 mil timber screws, so that'll be well and truly enough to give me a good bite into the underneath of the bench top. Now I'm just making sure when I screw them in that I'm not countersinking them too much, because the last thing I want is to actually like countersink them so much that I'm actually pushing the end of the screw up and out through the bench top. But the first one went in alright, so we'll see how we go with the rest. That was the easy bit, so all the screws along the front are in. Pre-drilling the holes from the top was a good idea because it's actually really awkward to screw from underneath, and having the holes already there just helps the screw to go in and just makes it so much easier. So I'm glad I did that. Definitely recommend doing that. Actually, I recommend building a cabinet that doesn't have a fixed shelf this close to the bench top, and it would be a lot easier. But anyway, it's going alright so far. Now, the challenge, as you can see, is that this is the space I now have to work with, and you know, it's pretty clear I'm not going to be able to get my drill, my ordinary drill, under there. So what I'm going to have to do is get my right angle drill bit and try and screw them in with that. So here we go. This is the right angle drill bit I was talking about. Now I actually showed this in a previous video where I originally framed the walls up the back. I had to use this in a few spots. It's super handy for situations like this when you don't have enough room to get a drill into where you need to put the screw. So I'm hoping, you know, as you can see, there's plenty of room to get this up and in. It's just a bit awkward, that's all. It's not as easy, obviously, as being able to guide the screws straight in from the drill, but it is doable, and it's the only way I'm going to be able to get these screws in from underneath. Okay, let's see if we can get this screw in. I think that worked. One more at the very back. Woohoo. Okay. Oh my goodness. There it is. Bench top is on. And I tell you what, I won't ever be able to get it off. Oh, happy with that. There it is, guys. Kitchen cabinet is finished. Now obviously I still need to paint it, but like I said in my last video, I'm going to wait till I've built everything else and made a final decision on colours before I paint this. I just wanted to get it finished because now I think I've pretty much ticked all the boxes to qualify as a motorhome. So I'm just going to tidy things up in here a little bit, and then I should be able to call the inspector and get him to come and have a look and hopefully get this bus registered.